Yo, what's going on? It is New Year's Eve. Shout out to everybody who's watching this video, who's going to watch it on the replay side. I hope everybody is having a good night tonight. We're going to get in. And I was a little conflicted as to how I was going to start off this show. I thought about doing some awards for some crazy things we've seen in 2024. I thought about doing a little personal introspective recap, just kind of let y'all know some of the moves that I want to make in 2025, some of the things I did in 2024, some of the goals I missed in 2024. And I was just all over the place. But I thought about it. I think we got a nice format that we're going to do to usher this in. So, hey, as always, I'm Marcus, the Debt Free Dad. We talk attorney reactions to current event, trending news, and so forth. Shout out to y'all. Y'all let me know, and I'm gonna say this a few times as we start this off. But what would be one word to describe your 2024? How did 2024 go for you in one word? What's one word that you would use to describe it? For me, that word is content. I'm just content. I'm good with what's going on. As things come, I'm able to pivot and adjust and, just being content. That's my word for the day. I want to give a shout out to the very first comment of the night. I always appreciate the folks who tune in prior to the live stream even starting. So shout out to you, Maddie, for the comment. Happy New Year's to you as well. Wishing you all of the blessings. Wish everybody all of the blessings as well. So I don't know. For me, the word to describe 2024 is content. Um, 2024 started with me essentially being unemployed. I had like a 50% pay cut from the end of 2023 going into 2024. And yes, it sucked. It was terrible. It was taking a 50% loss in your salary is like the worst. It's not the worst, but it's definitely not good. Fortunately, as you folks who probably checked out some of my earlier content when I was heavy on my debt-free journey and the finances, um, taking a 50% loss on income sucked when I lost my job, but one, it wasn't like I just got a pink slip. I knew it was a term period of employment, so I already knew that, hey, it was a finite period. I knew at some point it was going to come to an end. I was able to essentially wipe out all of my debt with the exception of, like, I think I only had a mortgage and a student loan at the time, and the emergency fund was relatively stashed up. So in 2024, I started out just, hoping I can get something. And it was a dope transition. I went from a 50% loss in income to getting a job where it's probably the highest earning job that I've had. And in addition to that, I was fortunate enough to be able to increase some other revenue streams that I'll talk about in a later video. But I guess the big takeaway is, I'm just content with how things were, how things progressed. Nothing was perfect, nothing is perfect, but we shift, we adjust, we make moves. And most importantly, if you want to see something different, you just got to do something different. So that's kind of always been my mantra. I never been on January 1st, I'm going to start this goal. If it's some shit I want to do or I'm trying to do, I just go ahead and start it immediately while I'm super focused. There's no need to wait. But that's just kind of me. That's kind of how my 2024 went. The one word to describe things for me would be content. Um, Family was good. The people I care about, the people who, are close knit, they were doing well. I was in position to be able to help family members, help friends, and it was just a blessing. There's nothing else I can say outside of I was content with exactly where I was at the time when I was in that position. That doesn't mean that, hey, The next year's word is going to be abundance. Next year's word, I already calling it, is going to be abundance. But that was me as far as my 2024. I got some things that, of course, I want to do different that I got to work on. But all in all, it was a successful year. It was a year that I learned a lot. It was a year of being able to take care of folks who I care about. It was a year of being able to cut loose some folks who I needed to cut loose because everybody not meant to ride with you on every journey. So, with that being said, that's my word for 2024. On the back end, I'm gonna give y'all my word for some of the my word and some of the things I going to accomplish and focus on in 2025. Now, with that being said, let's pivot and just take a look back because this was an absolutely interesting year. I'm not going to say it was a wild year, but it was an interesting year. We seen presidential assassinations, we seen drones, we seen two rappers beef and one lose and another one go to court. So we're gonna just kind of go through some of the things that I looked at and I said, yo, these things were kind of wild. These were lessons that I took away. I think it's dope lessons. Some may have a legal nuance, just some not to violate the rules of stupidity. We're going to talk about it. Let's jump into this very first video. And the big takeaway is from 2024, we've seen it with President Trump being able to dodge a few attempts to get deleted. Keep your head on the swivel. We have to be observant. There is no room for error because you aren't observant or are doing something that's probably not that bright. We just had a conversation on another live stream where we talked about subway system. Subway system is wild. We saw a video where DC OIG employment jacked up some dancers. We saw another video in New York with just a random guy who was an illegal immigrant who had got ousted out of the country and came back, set a woman on fire as she was asleep minding her damn business. And I don't know. As soon as we talked about subway stories, another subway story just popped up. So one of the key takeaways that we got from 2024, and you should have taken it into 2025, 2029, 2039, however long you're blessed to walk on this on God's green earth, is pay attention to your surroundings, keep your head on a swivel, and try not to violate the laws of stupidity, especially not two in a row. Luckily, this gentleman survived, but this is a situation that could have been avoided. And this also shows that, yo, it's some ill people in the world who just are out to do terrible things. So try to put yourself in a position where you can minimize their opportunistic endeavors for potentially harming you or somebody you care about. Let's go and check out this first video. Let's get it.
In Chelsea, where a man was hit by a one train after being pushed onto the tracks.
News 4's Chris Jose just got to that scene, has some alarming video of the moment that man was shoved. Chris, what can you tell us?
Right, and police now confirming a person of interest is in custody. As you mentioned a short time ago, we obtained surveillance video of.
That's the key thing right there. Most times when we watch these videos, you never hear they have a person of interest who's not in custody. So shout out to law enforcement doing their job and actually arresting somebody who is a person of interest in this particular situation.
The attack, which appears to be unprovoked and random. Again, this happened around 1:30 this afternoon. A warning to our viewers at home, the video is graphic and disturbing, but it's also worth noting the victim survived. Take a look.
The video not that crazy. Y'all not going. It's not nothing too crazy.
This video right here. The surveillance video shows the moments leading.
All right, pause real quick. Hey, I stay in a metropolitan area with subway travel, subway transit is the norm. As soon as my son was of age to ride the subway, one of the first things that I told him is never stand at the train station like this. What's going on, Lisa? I appreciate you tuning in. This is a recipe for disaster. And how come I told him that was because I know there are people who will push your ass in the subway for no reason because they're sick. So anytime, never stand in a place next to the tracks where one push can lead you into falling someplace you don't want to fall. So that's generally when you're waiting for the train, you stand back from the train. When you see the lights flashing saying your train is coming, you step up. And if you're standing this close, which you probably shouldn't, you got to be aware of what's going on. He's completely oblivious because he's on his phone. And again, this isn't a victim blaming thing. This is just a yo. You got to move a little bit smarter, especially when you're in big cities where people tend to do crazy shit.
Up to the assault, the suspect, wearing dark clothing and a hoodie, turns around and shoves the man off the platform as the train was pulling in. The victim, who was looking down on his phone, was completely blindsided. We froze the video before the train hit him. According to the NYPD, this all happened around 1:30 this afternoon at the 18th Street subway station on the 1 line. Law enforcement sources telling News 4 the victim was conscious and alert, and he's recovering at Bellevue Hospital with head injuries. Again, this appears to be random and unprovoked, but the investigation is still ongoing at this hour. Commuters should expect delays throughout the afternoon. Again, police telling us the person of interest now in custody. Reporting live, Chris Jose, News 4 New York.
Hey, great. It is absolutely great that the person of interest was in custody. But again, hey, going out of 2024 into 2025, you got to be aware of your surroundings. I actually get flat because people tell me I'm like kind of paranoid, which is probably true. I do got a little wartime conflict PTSD, but it's better to be overly. I would rather act in an abundance of caution as opposed to just not paying attention at all. Again, this isn't that guy's fault, but he could have taken steps to mitigate it. I'll tell you that there's no age. Well, it depends where you are. There's no age. I lie to you not. I've been on subway stations, on public transportation. I can remember going to work and I saw a kid. He couldn't have been no more than maybe 9 years old, 10 at the most. And he was on the bus with his two siblings who had to have been maybe 7 and 5. And he was the one who was responsible from getting them from the bus to school or wherever they was going at those ages. So like, I mean, there's no age restriction in most states. Well, I can say in where I live, I mean, you can't have like a toddler on the train, but it's kind of a ambiguous language. It's like, I guess, some states ask, well, how old is old enough for a child to be left at home? And some states have a strict number, like, oh, they got to be 15. But other states, like, no, it depends on the child. It depends on the maturity of the child. So, back when I was growing up, parents was at work. So we was just doing whatever. It was no video camera. Nobody had cell phones. We was just left to our own devices. But I want to say I let my son, he probably was I think when my son was in 7th grade, I want to say 6th or 7th grade, I let him go from one stop to another stop to get him and his sister to school. But it was cool because I knew older kids who were going to his school. So I was like, yo, y'all, they kept an eye on them, but my son and daughter had no clue. And they took their one stop. I got off. I stayed on the phone with them the whole time. They got to their one stop. I was on the phone with them as they got to where they was going. But I think I did that. Maybe my son was in 7th grade when I did that. And then I say maybe in 8th grade, he was like, oh, I want to ride it on my own because all his friends was riding it. So, it is what it is, but you got to keep your head on the swivel. We have to be alert because there are ill, crazy ass people out there. Yeah. So we talked about crazy shit on the subway and my algorithm just conformed directly to that. Exactly. Stay alert, stay alive. It's it's actually interesting. Some things I didn't know were PTSD or PTSD, but those things are probably important to making sure that I don't get caught lacking. I don't get caught lacking, especially staying in the city too. Like it'd be one thing if I was in maybe more rural area where the population wasn't as big, but now, like, nah, I always keep my head on the swivel. I told the story about what happened to my neighbors, but I felt like somebody tried to get me one morning when I was walking my dog. Like I normally get up early, like 5:30, 6 o'clock, and walk my dog. But if I'm walking my dog 5:30, 6 o'clock, y'all already know I'm a Second Amendment guy. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to you, Harley D. And I remember I'm walking my dog, and I'm walking on this side of the street, and I see two guys coming up this side of the street. And I had my phone in my hand, and I don't know if I was listening to something, but I clearly saw them coming. So I put my phone in my pocket, and for no reason whatsoever, they start crossing from their side of the street, taking a direct angle towards me. And so I'm like, wait, I was like, oh man, these dudes, it's about to be a bad day for them. So this is just me. I can't speak for everybody else. But if I'm in a situation where it looks sketch, I'm gonna start clutching. I'm gonna start clutching. So hey, I start clutching and they see me start clutching. So instead of taking that beeline directly towards me, they start walking straight down the middle of the street. And as they walking down the middle of the street, I'm just kind of turning just like this, keeping my eye on them, keeping my eye on them. They walk past, and I was like, them dudes was about to they was not about to make it home today. But I say that to say you have to be observant. You can't be just down on your phone. If you're out in public, I always tell my son, like, yo, if you got headphones on, only keep one in because you got to be able to hear what's going on out here because cats is wild. Yeah. It's 13 in California for no babysitter anymore. Yeah, that's interesting. 13 is again, it depends on the child, but I can remember, like, I don't know. I remember coming home from school, like I remember coming home from school like maybe fifth, fourth, fifth grade. But I had an older brother who was 3 years older. And that's just what all the kids did. We didn't have all of the telephones and cameras and shit. You just went in the home, you unlock the door. Don't open that damn door for strangers. And maybe some of the neighbors would be home. So, like, oh, if something happened, you can run next door and talk to Mr. Sam or Miss Mildred or whoever. That's kind of how it was. Happy New Year's to you too, Maui. I appreciate everybody tuning in. You remember one L Civ Pro? We talked about the intentional shoe rule. Yep, about trade and commerce in different states as far as venue. Ah, interesting. Interesting. I remember that. I remember that. I don't know. That's a good question. Happy New Year's. Happy New Year's to you, Bob. I appreciate you tuning in. Nah, man, my dog, not this dog. This dog I got, man, he got like a fucking cute gene. This dog's defense mechanism, if he was in the wild, is hopefully he would look so adorable. Another animal just don't want to eat him because they feel so sorry for him. My terrier, yeah, it wasn't nobody. My terrier, I would when I had my pit, I would let my daughter walk him maybe 3 or 4 blocks down the road, maybe 2 or 3 blocks down the road where I could kind of see from the porch. Because wasn't nobody, if you ran up on that dog, you was gonna be a bit up ass. So that's take number one. 2024, we gotta carry it into 2025. We gotta pay attention to what's going on out there. Is no room. I don't want nobody to be caught lacking. If anybody, hey, I want all my people, I want all the law-abiding citizens who minding their business to come home safe at night. But I want y'all to be alert to where you can do what you need to do if you need to protect yourself. Just remember that. We'll leave it like that. And maybe I'll do a Second Amendment video at a later date. All right. The second thing that I had that I thought was an interesting topic. Let's go ahead and let me pull it up. Now, this one is actually interesting because it's kind of a spin on another topic because politics was wild this year. This may have been one of the most this may have been the strangest year for politics that I have ever seen in my 40 plus years on this earth. I mean, everything from local politics to federal politics. We've seen indictments, convictions, resignations, uh, pardons. We've seen candidates forced down our throat with no primary. I mean, we've seen a former president and a current president square off for the first time in history. Then we've seen the president bow out. I mean, this was probably the craziest political cycle that I've seen, just personally in my lifetime. Just from all the stories, all the headlines, all the court cases, it was absolutely absurd. But this topic for 2024 kind of take a pivot towards the money side of the game. This is a thing that a lot of people are worried about. Private sector, it happens all the time. People worry about it. But now people in the government are worried. Let me go and cue up the video so we can see what's going on. And
when Donald Trump returns to the White House, some of the more than 2 million U.S. federal employees worry their jobs may be at stake. The incoming president has tapped billionaire Elon Musk.
Take over, Elon. Yes, take over.
To help lead what he's called a new Department of Government Efficiency to cut costs and likely lay off federal workers.
They want to be able to walk into an agency and say, here's the new rules of the road. If you don't like it, you're fired.
Steve Lenkart is the executive director of the National Federation of Federal Employees, which represents more than 100,000 workers. He says Trump could revive a plan to convert some federal employees to Schedule F status, which strips them of job protections.
So the employees would be ripe for intimidation and threats, threatening to fire them or demote them or move them to another part of the country where they don't want to live and that kind of thing. The games you can play with a federal employee under Schedule F, under an unprotected status, are unlimited.
Federal employee unions are lining up lawyers and preparing public campaigns to try to stave off any mass firings. But they're also hoping congressional Republicans will join Democrats in defending their importance and protect the services they provide to Americans.
All right, so we're gonna stop that right there. Let's talk about this real quick. We've seen it in 2024. It always hits the private sector first. So if you're employed in the private sector, my general thought is that's why the private sector tends to pay more for similar positions compared to the government, because I think that, one, the private sector, you can demand a higher salary because there's more competition with other competing companies and businesses. But I think the other thing is they tend to pay a little bit more for the same type of job, is because it's well known in the public sector, in the private sector, excuse me, that if the economy goes bad, if profits are looking shady, normally they are much more likely to trim the fat. So not in all positions, but in some of the mid-level management positions, some of the professional positions, I think the compensation is higher because they kind of pay you up front for that. And people in lucky positions, fortunate people, they may get a little bit of a severance packet. Persons in entry-level jobs, lower-level jobs probably won't. So right now, everybody is scrambling because, oh man, Trump is in office. There's going to be all of these federal layoffs. They're changing the status of federal employees to protected, to non-protected. Maybe this is just me. I don't understand the concept of a protected employee. As an attorney, if I have a job in the government, it's always essentially a Schedule F. It's always I serve at the pleasure of somebody. It's always an at-will employment. So it's never like, hey, we want to let you go. But before we let you go, we have to give you this counseling. Then we have to put you on this performance improvement plan. Then after this performance improvement plan, we got to reevaluate you for 6 months. I don't understand that. I mean, I guess it's warranted. I don't understand that because that's not normally what attorneys have. They're just typically at will employees. You can be terminated at any time. That's just the nature of what it is. Even before I was an attorney, I mean, it never gave any concern to me because whatever job I had, I actually did the damn job. So I'm a little bit, I'm not going to say uninformed, but I'm a little bit biased because I think if you're an at will employee, I think it's a higher likelihood that you'll make sure you don't bullshit when it's time to come to work. Pardon my language. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. But I don't know. That's kind of my take on it. I understand there can be opportunities for people to, I guess, leverage an employee who's an at will employee, but I don't know. Like I've seen both sides of the argument, okay? I see some employees need protection and I can understand why employees would need protection because they can get a boss who may not like something random about them. It's nothing related to their job, and there could be some abuse there. But I've also seen the flip side. I've been in government agencies when I was placed in charge, and once I was in a leadership position, I was like, wait, y'all got somebody who been here for 10 years and don't do their job? 10 years and never do their job. I had an executive assistant once. I lie to you not. She was the executive assistant. I don't know how many years before I got there. She was executive assistant for multiple people, and everybody complained about her. When I got there, how the hell am I in charge? You're the executive assistant. You're supposed to do my travel, and you're getting this. Math for government travel isn't that hard. Math for travel isn't that hard. You figure out what the per diem is, how much they give you. Is literally addition and subtraction. I should not have to go back and check the math on everyone's travel packet because it could be incorrect. And this person was there for 10, 15 years. And I was like, why is she still here? I don't understand. Like, she literally brought no value to the organization. And people was like, oh, it's just hard to fire someone in government. And I was like, what? That being said, I ended up letting her go, but whatever it was that needed to be done, I did it. So I get both sides of the argument, but I don't think that there's going to be this mass government layoff. Private sector, it's going to happen because when companies have to make that profit, they're going to tighten up the belt. But in the government, I just don't see it happening. I think it's going to be a hiring freeze at some point. Normally, when a new regime comes in, it happens around March or April, so they won't hire any new employees. I think a lot of people are going to turn in their retirement packets because you'll have some senior level government officials who just like, I don't, I don't want to deal with whatever may come due to the new political wind shifting, so I'll leave. And shout out to them. Get all the if you able to retire, go ahead, get out of there and retire so some of the young bucks can jump up into those seats. That's kind of my position. I think the big takeaway for me is whether you're private sector or government sector is ain't no damn job guarantee. I don't give a damn how good you are unless you like own the company like Elon Musk. But no job is guaranteed. So do what you can to put yourself in a position to limit the risk if you were to lose your job. That means the basic things of trying to stash a couple $100 a little bit aside every couple of weeks, every pay period. A great thing to do to give you a buffer from losing a job is if you can actually get your leave situation to where you have more leave than you need. So you're in like a use or lose category. Because then if you actually lose that job, you'll get paid out for that leave. And that's kind of like a backup emergency fund just for those instances where you lose your employment. But that's kind of my thoughts on it. Let's see. Let me check the comments. Your one word is hilarious. Hey, I'm about to choke up. I agree with that. 2024 has been hilarious. I think that's a fair word to use. Hey, I know that sounds wild, okay, and that was my initial thought. Like, man, that's wild. This dude is convicted. That's crazy. But then, I mean, once he won, it is what it is, right? I mean, like he won the votes. It was a unanimous sweep. So, like, I don't know. I don't. I don't know. I'm less concerned about it personally. I mean, like, I know it just sound wild. Like, man, this dude had 34 convictions. He was found guilty on 34 counts or something crazy to that effect. None of that shit is probably going to ever come into fruition. The sentencing is probably going to get swept away. Like, all of that is probably going to be absolutely a moot issue, I think, after the Department of Justice and the Supreme Court get through with everything. I just personally don't think he's going to have a blemish on his record in any event. I don't think the sentencing with those things are going to move forward. That's just my personal opinion. And yes, it is wild to say, like, oh man, our president was convicted of felony charges. But that being said, hey, to the victor goes the spoils. When you win, you win. And when you win and you got the power, you flex your power. It is what it is. And, you know, at this point, I'm a person of, whoever's in there, I want them to succeed because I want the best for the country unilaterally, unanimously across the board. So, that's my hope. I hope everything works out. I'm relatively optimistic. I don't think things are going to be as bad as people think, and I don't think things are going to be as good as people think. I think it's going to balance out somewhere in between. There's going to be some stuff that's wild. It's going to be some stuff where I'm like, oh yeah, that was actually a pretty smart move to make. Like, hey, shout out to this pick for the Secretary of Labor. I think that was a great pick. It was somebody who is pro-union. Hey, so, and that's something that Trump made that selection and his party isn't happy about it, but that's the good thing about having a transactional president. If you got a president who's transactional, there's always a deal to be made. And if someone knows the art of the deal, they can use it to their advantage. And hey, the Teamsters president used it to his advantage. He spoke at the RNC and he got a Secretary of Labor who is pro-union, who most Republicans hate, but Trump did it because he's a transactional person. I remember International Shoe, that name. What's going on, Cheryl? What's going on, Cheryl? I appreciate you for tuning in. So, but that's my takeaway. In 2024, we've seen the tides change with regard to employment, with regard to the overall economic health. Everybody's state is broke except for I'm not gonna say everybody's state, but I know Maryland is broke. DC is running like a $700 million deficit or something. Most states are broke ever since the COVID money panned out. I see a lot of states are struggling. Now, Virginia, on the other hand, has a surplus. I can't remember how many $1 million, but the bottom line is I think purse strings are going to get a little bit tighter in 2025 before things loosen up, maybe at the end of 2025 and 2026. So do what you can to put yourself in a position to make sure if an economic downturn comes, you aren't on struggle street. I think that's the best way that I could put it. Now, this is a story that I don't know what to say about this story. I don't know how to explain it. We could talk about it. I'm glad I got another military person in the room. But I seen President Trump say something interesting. I seen several government officials say something interesting. I have my take on what it is. I'm not a conspiracy theory guy, but we can not talk about this because this was wild for 2024. I haven't seen him.
For weeks, people across New Jersey and nearby states have reported seeing drone-like objects flying low in the night sky. And it keeps happening. For perspective, more than 1.7 million drones are registered for commercial and recreational use in this country. CBS's Allie Bauman is in Seaside Heights, New Jersey, with what residents are now demanding. Allie, good evening.
Okay, let's talk about these drones real quick, okay? And thank God I haven't seen them. I probably would have came out like Jed Clampett with my shotgun. But drones flying around on the East Coast, the size of vehicles is wild. That's actually very interesting. I have a theory about what's going on, but before I give my conspiracy theory, I'm gonna go ahead and finish playing this video, and then I'm gonna let y'all know what I think it is. And I don't think there's any cause for concern. I don't think this is going to be any alien invasion or anything like that.
Good evening, Tariq. And as more and more reports of these drones come pouring in, some lawmakers here in New Jersey met again today to discuss law enforcement's capabilities to monitor drones.
What is that?
Thousands of reported drone sightings.
I saw about 10 drones in total, literally around the apartment complex.
Igniting a nationwide mystery.
We need more answers. We deserve more answers because this is the world we live in now.
But the worries of today.
The Columbia Broadcasting System and its affiliated stations present Orson Welles and the Mercury Theater on the air in The War of the World.
Are starting to sound a lot like the worries of yesterday.
The object itself doesn't look very much like a meteor, at least not the meteors I've seen.
A fictional CBS radio broadcast by Orson Welles set off similar panic across parts of New York and New Jersey in 1938.
Let me calm those nerves. We have not seen anything unusual. We have not seen any unusual activity.
Now, security agencies are faced with a modern challenge, explaining why clusters of drones have been reported flying at night, at least over 7 states. So within the past month, how many drone sightings have been reported to your office?
Well, in Monmouth County, we've seen over 100.
So about 100 sightings reported.
I haven't seen any. Y'all let me know in the comments. Have y'all actually seen any of those things? One, I think President Trump's statement was 100% accurate. We clearly know what the hell drones are. We clearly know that they're operating in our airspace. My brother was a chef, and he worked in a restaurant. And the guy who owned the restaurant, this was like after 9/11, he would fly his helicopter from the Hamptons to DC. And after 9/11, he didn't get the proper authorization. And they were like, the next time you fly that helicopter down here without getting the proper authorization in advance, we're just going to shoot it. We're going to shoot it down. So if it's something flying over the airspace and nobody knows what the hell it is, there's a good chance that it's not going to be there. I don't know if it's I don't know if it's sniffing out nuclear waste or what. I think it's more of a surveillance mechanism, because I think it would be would it be an opportunity for drone surveillance to be used? I wouldn't be shocked if I started seeing them, or we start seeing them in the nation's capital right around the time of inauguration. That's actually a great way to get a bird's eye view of what's going on during the inauguration, or when you have a large crowd of people in one location for something like that. So I think it's test runs for surveillance. I think as January 20th comes closer, we're probably going to see a lot more, or we're probably going to see some in the district. I just I hope I don't see any over my house. I don't want to see any over my house, but that's what I think it is. I think it's a surveillance thing, in my personal opinion. Not aliens. I mean, if it were aliens, I think they would have a smarter way. If aliens were so advanced, I think they would have a smarter way to travel than drones, right? Shouldn't it be like some anti-gravity disc or something like that? If an alien come down here and he in a drone, I'm going to be really disappointed. I'll be like, bro, I was expecting your technology to be light years ahead of what we got. You came down this bitch in a drone. I would be extremely, highly, highly disappointed in it. Now, let's go ahead and check out this next video. This one was crazy. This one was actually in the DMV. Y'all are probably familiar with it. Somebody should be in jail. There probably should be some. I don't know. I'm not going to say someone should be in jail. Well, let's watch the video, then we'll talk about it. But this was absolutely crazy. This was crazy. Never seen this before. Oh, where's the sound? What the? Oh, this is all right. This is just the footage of the bridge collapse in Baltimore. That was absolutely insane. The Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed because a cargo ship collided with it after losing power briefly, and this was insane. This is the video footage. That's crazy. What was actually amazing about this to me, I think the amazing thing about that was that like they actually did an outstanding job. They did an outstanding job of getting communications out over the radio and over the cellular communications to get people off that bridge because that was early in the morning. It was zero dark 30. I know it's people traveling on that bridge normally to go to work. That bridge was empty as hell, which was absolutely amazing. It ended up being a lot less deadly than I anticipated it would be. Because you can see it's nobody, isn't that one vehicle going past that damn thing. That was crazy. Now I don't know. Do y'all know the reason or the rationale behind that? The story surrounding it was actually interesting, but confusing as well. I don't know much about boats, so I'm not really sure. Um, I'm not really sure, but apparently a cargo ship was sailing. They lost power, but it was only briefly. Because if we looked at that image, I believe we could see. Yeah, we can see the lights on the cargo ship actually on. But if you watch the longer video footage before the bridge collapsed, you'll see the lights to the cargo ship go off. Then they cut back on, and then it just hits directly into the fucking bridge and collapses the whole thing. I don't know. Again, I'm not a sailing expert, but the power going off should not completely make the ability to navigate a ship just something that can't be done. Like even if you're in your car and the power cuts off, but the vehicle is in drive, you can still turn the steering wheel. Now it's gonna be hard as shit to turn the steering wheel without that power steering belt, but you can still turn the steering wheel if you use enough force to get it to go where you want it to go. So I don't understand what would be the point of having a ship, and if the ship lose power, you have no ability to navigate or even steer the motherfucker, pardon my language, out of harm's way. That just doesn't make any sense to me. To me, I think it was somebody asleep at the wheel, literally. I think in order for that to happen, in order for a ship to sail into a bridge, it's not a power outage thing because according to the reports, the power outage occurred when the bridge was damn near when the boat was damn near about to collide with the bridge. So I don't think it was a power outage thing. I think that I pray that it wasn't anything intentional. I think it was somebody who had an extreme case of gross negligence and they dropped the ball. I don't know if they were asleep at the wheel. I don't know if they weren't using the navigation system correctly. I don't know what the hell it was, but I know that the attorney general in Baltimore said that they're looking into an investigation because they wanted to see if it was something that has any criminal culpability. That would probably be very, very difficult. But as far as negligence on behalf of the individual who was operating the ship, the company, oh, they are going to be screwed. They're going to be broke as hell. The company's probably going to be out of business after all of the litigation ensues. I mean, is an absolute shit show. I actually Googled how often do bridges collapse in the United States, and it's not uncommon for it to happen. But at this magnitude, a bridge this size, a bridge this large, That is very, 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 very rare. And I don't know. I got to drive over a big ass bridge every time I take my son to school. And I like now this is kind of burned into the back of my brain every time I'm stuck on the top of the bridge, sitting in traffic for 15 or 20 minutes. That's what I think. I think is no way a power outage for a brief second would have led to this. I just can't see. I know absolutely nothing about sailing. So if somebody is an avid sailor in the chat, y'all let me know. But there's no way that a power outage would have led to something like this. Somebody made a crucial error, sleep at the wheel, didn't know what the hell they were doing, and I think they said it's going to take like 7 to 10 years for them to rebuild this damn bridge. So that is absolutely insane. Now, let's take another pivot because, again, this goes to because the politics for 2024 was so crazy. I mean, we could just talk that we could literally talk about that all day. But here's something that I saw. You all let me know, is this a good idea or a bad idea? Now, before I start the video, I'll preface this by saying, how much of an impact do you all think Elon Musk is going to have with government moving forward? Do you think it's going to be a big impact, medium impact, or not so much impact? Because I don't think that this is just my personal opinion. Exactly. This is my personal opinion. I don't think that, I don't know. Sometimes, okay, how could I put this? I'm trying to think of you know how you have like a child who's like, they're at that age where they're young and they're really helpful, but when they help, they're just in the way. So sometimes the best thing you can do to make people feel like they're a part of something is give them a project and go shoot them off in a corner somewhere to work on the project. This is my opinion of what I think Doge is going to be with Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. I don't think that it's going to be a government entity that's going to go around slashing significant government budgets and just reducing the budget in all of these high speed places. I just don't see that happening. I think that Elon Musk made a lot of campaign donations. He's a relatively popular guy. I think that Trump is one thing he does very, very well is he is, I think, a master marketer and good at delivering a message to the majority of people. I think that he used Elon Musk for exactly what he needed to. And now, again, he's a transactional guy. Here's the Department of Government Efficiency. You go ahead over in the corner and play with the Department of Government Efficiency. And I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal because I don't know. There are other government entities that are tasked with evaluating the operation of government programs to trim the fat. So what Doge is set to do is already being done by every Office of Inspector General for every government agency or every program. Not only do they investigate fraud, waste, and abuse, but they have audits and inspections to identify where gaps are in processes and resources could be saved. So they would try it, but they won't get approved. Yeah, I just don't think it's. I think it's more of a okay. Appreciate the help for the election. Go ahead, take this project with this little budget and go over in a corner and do what you're gonna do. But I did see this. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. Is this a good idea or a bad idea? This is on par with, hey, it may be some job cuts. People are worried about the Department of Government Efficiency. Government workers are worried about their jobs. I saw this and I thought, I don't know if this is good or bad. Let's talk about it.
We've got to be
prepared. Those words coming from the Maryland State Superintendent of Schools after a bill has now been introduced in Washington to abolish the U.S. Department of Education. Project Baltimore's Chris Papps asked Dr. Carrie Wright.
A bill has been presented to get rid of the Department of Education. On its face, I think most people will be like, man, that's a terrible idea to get rid of the Department of Education. But don't make a decision yet. Let's go ahead and play the rest of the video, and then we're going to talk about it. Because I think it's a good point in this video. I think it's some things they didn't think of that are bad points. But let's watch this video and figure out if abolishing the Department of Education is something that, one, could be done, and two, would it actually be effective?
About the legislation to see how it could affect Maryland.
And as you have seen in the news, Dr. Carrie Wright has been Maryland State Superintendent of Schools for about a year. And with the election of Donald Trump, a lot could soon change.
Just a quick question about the DOE, the U.S. DOE.
A bill has formally been introduced in Washington, D.C. to shut down the U.S. Department of Education.
And what are your concerns, if any, moving forward with the proposal to abolish the DOE?
So no, I've not looked at the bill. I think that what we're trying to keep our eyes on, obviously, is the funding aspect of it.
And I'm going to close the Department of Education and move education back to the states. And we're going to do it fast.
During the 2024 campaign, President-elect Trump ran on a platform that included abolishing the DOE, but did not provide many details. Now, we're getting a better idea of what a DOE shutdown may look like. Senator Mike Rounds, a Republican from South Dakota, has introduced legislation that, if passed, would move many DOE functions to other federal agencies. Rounds says the bill would save taxpayer money on administrative costs, while limiting what he describes as regulatory overreach. According to the bill, federal programs that help students with disabilities would move to the Department of Health and Human Services. The DOE's Civil Rights Division would move to the Department of Justice, while student loan, research, and data collection would be taken over by the Treasury Department.
We're prepared to be partners with whoever we need to be partners with.
For Dr. Wright, the agency overseeing the programs doesn't seem to matter. What does matter is that Maryland students receive the services they need. And according to the bill, it appears many of those student services are not being removed.
If they've assigned something to HHS versus USDOE, then I'll be a partner with HHS. I mean, it's whoever I need to be the partner with in order to get the work done.
The U.S. Department of Education was created by Congress in 1979. This year, most of its $238 billion budget will go to student aid programs for colleges. The rest is largely distributed to the states to fund schools in high poverty areas and to educate students with disabilities. In Maryland, about 7% of all public K-12 education dollars come from the federal government. That funding is Dr. Wright's biggest concern.
I think that we've got to be prepared if those funds get reduced in any way.
Wright did not explain what those preparations may look like, but she says curriculum and instruction is already largely handled on a state level. The federal government has little involvement. But if funding is affected by abolishing the DOE, she says that could have a significant impact on the services students receive.
Yeah, that's what we have to know.
President-elect Trump will be sworn in on January 20th, 2025. He has already nominated his former head of the Small Business Administration, Linda McMahon, to be the next and potentially last DOE secretary. Shutting down the U.S. Department of Education will require congressional approval. It's not guaranteed to happen, and lawmakers have not yet debated the bill. But Dr. Wright says no matter what does happen, Maryland will adapt.
We are still continuing to do our work here and focus on the students here and focus on what we can do to improve instruction across the state. And that will always be my first focus. And then we'll wait and see what plays out in D.C.
I'm Chris Papst, and this.
All right, so let me know what y'all think. Department of Education being up out of there. One, I think it's going to be very, very difficult to actually happen. I guess one of the reasons why, hey, shout out to the new Secretary of Education, Linda McMahon. But I don't know if y'all are familiar with this. I know y'all hear Linda McMahon, and y'all probably think the Vince McMahon, the wrestling guy's wife, but she actually held a similar role at the state level for a substantial amount of time. She actually has some experience in a similar role. So she's not foreign to educational needs at the state level and what it takes to run the administrative rigors of the Department of Education. She does have some experience in that. I think that one, she's probably not the worst pick. I think she's probably better than his previous pick that she had, who was very pro private school and charter school. But I think it's going to be very difficult to do. I think that one, Congress is probably not going to sign off on it. Even if they have control, I think it could cause to pause from some person signing off on it. Two, I don't think the person he put in that position is necessarily a yes person that would just do it as a matter of course. Now, this was the actual dope question right here because this was, my initial concern. I was like, wait, if they get rid of this, are they getting rid of all of the funding that goes to the programs for IEP students and students with cognitive and developmental disabilities? If the plan is to move services from the Department of Education, get rid of that to places where they belong, what was said in the video makes sense. When you talk about student loans, funding issues, the Department of Treasury does seem well prepared to handle those things. The Department of Health and Human Services would seem like an appropriate place to handle things when you're dealing with special needs and things like that for students to make sure they have access to programs. So I actually think that's actually kind of smart. And I agree with the representative from Maryland, what she said in that video. We don't care what government agency we got to go to make sure shit happen, long as it can happen. I think the thing that they're missing for me, and you all let me know, is I don't think the savings on administrative costs that they think they'll get, they will actually receive. That's what I think that's being missing from here. Let me see. I do know that Biden Harris has let our military go to hell. I'm a BDU era, same here. BDU era here, same here, family. And seeing the stuff going on now is abhorrent compared to the way I'm used to NCOs and officers acting like clowns on social media. I don't disagree with that. Did you see the bill that was proposed? I generally don't disagree with that. There's actually a bill being proposed now. I was talking to someone at my job who's in the reserves about it, where they have, I think everyone else in the military, if I'm not mistaken, is getting a 4.7% pay raise, but E1 through E4, if I'm not mistaken, it might be E5. It may be E1 through E4, but they're looking at like a 14% pay raise because, if you're E1 and through E4, I was a E2, I think, or E3, I started at or something like that, and you don't make shit. So they're trying to get the lowest level of the enlisted branch, the biggest raise, and it was something like a 14.45% raise for E1 through E4, I believe. It might have been E5 in there, but I know for sure E1 through E4, and then everybody else will get the 4.7% that's across the board. I don't know. I'm not opposed to doing something different. I think that it just has to be planned. I'm not a fan of trying to do something different with no plan on how to change it or how to carry it out, just doing it because you say you want to do it. So I think that it makes sense. If you get rid of the Department of Education, you want to allocate the responsibilities of the DOE to other agencies. Department of Justice handling litigation on behalf of the Department of Education, it makes sense to me. But I don't think, if the point is to save money, that's absolutely not going to happen. because they aren't going to save on administrative costs. Usually kids with the IEP ain't going to need student loans. They need services now, not later. But yeah, and that's the point. The same thing that the lady said who was speaking on Maryland's interest. She doesn't, as long as the funding and the services don't get cut, she doesn't care what branch of government she has to go to get it. So I think that's actually a plan that has legs to stand on. If we get rid of the Department of Education, how can we bifurcate all of the duties that the Department of Education have to other agencies who should be well prepared to do it? I think that's a good part of the plan. I think it's not, if the goal is to cut funding and save money on administrative costs, I just don't think that's going to happen. So that's why I think the plan fails. I think bifurcating, splitting the duties up could be a smart route to go. But when you give all of these additional duties to HHS, when you give all of these additional duties to the Department of Treasury, to the Department of Justice, come on in. I know. They coming to get me. I'll be down. What time is it? Okay, I'll be down. Do me a favor. Can you go down there and get me some of that wine we just got from our club membership today? It's in the refrigerator. There's the only glass of wine that's in there. Yeah, no, the big one. Get me a cool glass too. Don't bring a red cup. All right. I know I'm from the hood, but I got some class. All right, yeah. And so I don't know. I don't think the services would be interrupted from a technical standpoint. From a functional standpoint, yes. Because if the goal is to save money on administrative costs, that won't happen. Because when you take a big block of duties from one agency and pass them to another agency, their staff are not going to be able to handle that load of new duties. So it's going to stop people from getting resources they need, because they're going to have to, all they're going to do is, all the employees who are over here doing it at the Department of Education, they would literally need to move those employees over to Health and Human Services, because they already understand the program. They already know how it should operate. Then you have to waste resources and money making sure HHS has the infrastructure and the capacity to handle that new obligation. So I think it was a smart idea. And okay, we can move these duties around to other agencies, but it's no way it's going to save any money on administrative costs. Starting up something, stopping something, and starting it back up is an absolute nightmare. The same way, even when the government shuts down, everybody think, oh man, a government shutdown is easy. A government shutdown, less problematic. Cranking everything back up to get everything rolling after people haven't been doing it is a big problem. So I think that's where that plan fails. So I don't think it should pass. I would be shocked if it did. I just don't see, 4 years are going to go by. I don't think they're going to get rid of a government agency that's been around since 1979. And the reason why is I don't think they'll have the administrative infrastructure at the new places to actually get it done. That's my take on it. Exactly. And this isn't even, it kind of conflicts with Trump's statement, because Trump said, hey, I want to put education back in the hands of the states. But from that article that we watched in that video, essentially they said that the services will just move to other federal branches. So it didn't necessarily talk about a cut in any funding. The only cut in funding were associated with the administrative costs, because they think we don't have to use the administrative resources at the Department of Education. We can use the administrative resources that's already established at these other federal agencies to do the same thing. The problem is, if you kick all of the Department of Education, hey, I've worked at the Department of Education for 6 months. I was on a detail there. If you think you're going to kick all the litigation of the Department of Education over to the Department of Justice, and they aren't going to have to hire new lawyers, that's asking, oh, you did a good job. You filled it up too. I'll be down there. Like my daughter, she was like, "Come on, what you doing? We gotta go." You can say Happy New Year's to them at 12:02. That's funny. That's funny. But I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. I don't think it's gonna come into fruition. Again, I think that the Department of Government Efficiency is just one of those things that were kind of set out in a corner to make certain people feel involved, but without absolutely destroying uh, anything. That's my take on it. Again, I don't know if you all saw this. This is something that is another stupid act as well. I don't know how we can guard from this. I know they did arrest this guy. It was a beautiful thing that he got arrested. Let me see something. Actually, before we go here, I want to pull up this story right here. And this is actually another problem. You talk about handing something back to the states, that's going to be problematic because when you hand something back to the states, every state is going to do something different. It's going to be no consistency. That's one good thing about like the Department of Education. It creates a certain level of federal standards and it creates a certain level of consistency across the board. Now that doesn't mean that states don't have the right to add their specific nuances, but that federal regulatory body creates some consistency. If you were to get rid of the Department of Education and say, here you go, states, do everything and you figure out education on your own. California, probably going to screw it up. Where is that? Mississippi, they'll probably mess it up because Mississippi is the poorest state in the United States. They may mess it up just from a resource standpoint. So I do agree that there has to be some federal structure there, some federal oversight there to make sure things are consistent. And this story that we're about to see is a prime example of why some state legislators just make bad decisions. This is regarding a state senator in Louisiana and 50 Cent making an effort to buy a shitload of real estate there, which would bring a lot of money there. But this senator is like, nah, bruh, we don't want your business, 50 Cent. Hey, I'm gonna have to take a pause for the calls because my family gonna kill me if I'm not downstairs. So, hey, we're gonna take a brief intermission. Y'all stand by. I'm gonna hop back on. Give me like 3 minutes. That was Mad Hood. Second. Not bad. It's the second. That's funny. Oh man, that's hilarious. That was late as hell. Hey, I appreciate y'all. Hey, happy New Year's to y'all in the chat. I had to go down there because my daughter was like, "Hey, y'all, you got to come down here." But happy New Year's to y'all. Toast, salute. I wish everybody prosperity, many blessings, good health. That's number one. Good health is the most important thing. Hey, it's 2025. You hear that? Y'all hear that shit? Hey, you heard that? That was somebody had a damn street sweeper. Huh? Yeah, somebody had. See, that's the thing. You live in the city. You don't you don't know what is fireworks, and you don't know what the hell is guns. Sound like somebody shot a damn SKS off out there. I know damn sure that wasn't no damn fireworks. So you have no clue. You have no clue what's being shot out there. Let me see. Does the state still get paid if there's a government shutdown? When there's a government shutdown, generally state programs are still funded because most of the funds for state programs are given for a certain period of time. So now it would be a problem if, let's say, the government shut down for 30 days and on day, man, these damn dudes is ridiculous. I hate New Year's with the fucking fireworks and gunshots. The shit is crazy. But normally what'll happen if the feds have a shutdown and state funds are allocated, those monies are already there. So it wouldn't be a problem unless it was a period where, let's say, the state funds were supposed to be renewed and dispersed during the time of a shutdown. Then it would likely pose some issue. But even still, once the government get back up and running, everything that should get dispersed gets dispersed relatively fast. I don't know. Like, I was actually low key hoping for a government shutdown because I was going to go on vacation because, I mean, employees still get paid, services still get taken care of. You just get your paycheck after you go back. They actually passed a law to make sure that happened as well. So that's typically how it work out. Real quick, let's take a look at this video as we having this discussion about state and federal. This is an interesting story I saw where a Louisiana state legislator was not excited about 50 Cent trying to invest in real estate in his particular area. I think it was a dumb move personally. I don't know. I have my concerns. Let's talk about it. Let's watch the video and
50 Cent's interest in Shreveport property, as we've been following for the last week or so. KSLA's Miracle Garrett is in the studio tonight. She has a reaction to 50 Cent's interest from a Louisiana state senator from Shreveport. Miracle?
Today, I reached out to Louisiana State Senator Sam Jenkins and got a response about his concerns over 50 Cent's interest in Shreveport properties.
At any point, when the racket could stop and we could talk business, I'm here. I don't plan to go anywhere.
An article posted on the Baton Rouge website, The Advocate, this week said Louisiana State Senator Sam Jenkins had some concerns about 50 Cent buying or leasing too much of the city's properties.
I met with Mayor Arsenault back in October, and I have a letter here that talks about a number of different projects that are actually on the books that are going to need some assistance from the city, and maybe in many respects need some of the assets that may be available.
Just yesterday, 50 Cent posted on Instagram, quote, Sam Jenkins must not want things to turn around in Shreveport. Who would not want to do a deal to wait for an imaginary deal to come? Or maybe he just lacks faith in me, end quote.
Look, I don't think when you're talking about your future that there's anything imaginary about it. As I stated, we have other projects that are on the books. These are not imaginary.
One of the projects listed is the Red River Entertainment District and how it can develop as a point of interest for commerce, historical significance, and cultural experience.
That sounds imaginary to me. She said one of the plans on the books is the Red River Project and how it can develop. That sounds imaginary.
Senator Jenkins says he wants a professional group with a development plan.
And if Mr. 50 Cent Jackson has a plan and has the finances and has the skill set to implement that, I'm open to listen to it. As I said, this is not a personal issue with me. It's about business.
Senator Jenkins says he does not want anyone to think that he is standing in the way of progress in Shreveport.
When I'm talking about city assets, I'm talking about publicly owned, city-controlled assets. Now, I'm hearing all the racket out there about these investments with buildings and restaurants and things of that nature. I'm not against any of that. I think that's a good thing to do. I'm talking about publicly owned assets.
Shreveport City Council members responded to the statement from State Senator Jenkins. Council Chairman Alan Jackson said, the council consistently does its due diligence to ensure that any decisions we make are in the best interest of the city and its residents. Councilwoman Tabitha Taylor added, I stand in full support of the plans for G-Unit Productions. Jenkins says he doesn't want the city of Shreveport and city council members to receive backlash in this process.
My concerns, which I stand by, is simply that let's make sure that all of these projects are getting some attention from the city.
This is somebody who is old and out of touch with what's going on, in my opinion. Louisiana is one of the poorest states in the United States. Shreveport is a state that has economic issues. And in my opinion, I think that this state senator is somebody who is a little bit older, a little bit outdated, and he doesn't understand. He can't see the trees in the forest. He's like, man, there's too much forest out here for me to see any trees. He doesn't understand a business opportunity if it slapped him in his face. Of all the urban entertainers, black entertainers that you could say, hey, this person has a business opportunity for your community, what do you think? 50 Cent would probably be one of the individuals who I trust the most. I think he's one of the sharpest hip hop minds with a business acumen who appears to be doing things the right way. I don't know. 2024 between Diddy getting locked up and all sorts of stuff, we'll see. But he appears to do everything right. I think this senator right here is just kind of old, outdated, and is missing the buck. Business opportunities aren't always going to come in the form that he's used to seeing. Restaurants and venues and grocery stores. Business opportunities may come in the form of other things, as in a production studio. It could be art expos and things of that nature. So I don't think that this dude is seeing a handwriting on the wall. If I was one of his constituents in Shreveport, Louisiana, I would actually be livid, because I think this is an opportunity that's right in front of him to bring economic input, economic resources, jobs, opportunities directly to the community. And he's not taking it, from my opinion, because of where the economic idea is coming from. That's actually kind of wild. it's kind of wild. It's kind of terrible. It's given a vibe to me of like, bro, this isn't 1972. Okay, this isn't what you're used to seeing. What counts and qualifies as an economic opportunity changes over time. And you got to have the foresight to be able to see the writing on the wall to know that what was an economic opportunity in 1972 may not be one in 1999. What was one in 1999 may not be one in 2025. So I don't know. I just think this is an interesting story. I think it's a senator who actually may need some younger staff members to give him a little bit of insight. And businesses do that all the time. I don't know if you all recall during the pandemic, a lot of churches went out of business. And you're like, man, how did all these churches go out of fucking business? What's going on? Why are these churches going out of business? Because a lot of churches had older people on their leadership board. And when it was time and no one could gather, it was churches out there who didn't know how to pivot from we can't hold a physical gathering spot, so we have to do it over the internet. We have to stream it. We have to use YouTube. We have to figure out another way to collect these tithes and offerings. And you would see, I know where I'm at, you would see churches just going down one by one, boom, 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 collapsing. And I remember I talked with a minister at a church, and he was telling me about how his church had to provide funding to keep churches afloat during the pandemic. And he said the reason for it was because these churches had older people who didn't understand how to pivot. They were still trying to record sermons and sell CDs. Who the hell is selling a CD? Like, you should give that content out for free, because that content going out for free, if people like it, they're going to come in, they're going to rock with you. And I think this guy is one of them old ass deacons who just didn't know how to use Zoom, who didn't know how to use Zelle or Cash App, and couldn't figure out how are we supposed to get the payments or the offerings from the church if they aren't here to do it. But I think that's an interesting story. I don't know. It's terrible. If it were me, I would be all for it. I think 50 Cent is one of the smartest businessmen. He was actually on a video I did. Shout out to my guy Raising the Bar with Mar. Has a YouTube channel, and we did the top 10 hip hop entrepreneurs, and 50 Cent was definitely on that list. Definitely on that list. All right, we're gonna get ready to get out of here. I gotta go celebrate with the family. But I want to give y'all my quick takeaway on things. We'll circle back. I had another story I want to cover, but we can circle back and do that at a later date. It's 2025. For me, I told y'all content was the word for 2024. In 2025, it's going to be abundance. I've said this before on this channel. A lot of times, I don't know, I can't speak for you all, but I think it's a true bill. A lot of times, what's your greatest asset is also, your biggest negative that you have. And my biggest asset is my ability to focus on something that I want to get done. I mean, it's probably more good than bad, because when I want to get something done, I'm gonna get that shit done. I don't care how hard I gotta push, what I have to do to get it done. I don't care who tell me I can't do it. But that greatest asset is also a detriment, because I'll compartmentalize one thing and I may drop the ball on other things. So for me, one of the things I want to work on is finding that balance between me being able to hustle and focus on the things that I want to focus on, but also not doing that, not dropping the ball in other areas. I kind of have a bad habit of doing that. I think that's how a lot of successful people are. I'm just saying that to give myself a big up. But I think generally successful people can compartmentalize things and focus on one thing. But sometimes it can be a detriment because you kind of drop the ball in other areas. So I'm gonna work to try to find the balance. At the end of the day, as long as you're making some forward progress, you're doing something productive, you're doing something 1% better than you were yesterday, it's always a move in the right direction. That's going to be my take for it. I don't know. Let me see. Master P apparently put Louisiana on the map back in '95 when he was doing extremely well. And that opened up the gate for the Hot Boys and their brand. Yeah, Master P was actually on the list as well. Master P, one of my favorite artists from the Make 'em Say and nah. See, 95 through 99, those are my heyday right there. But Master P is one of those dope artists as well. But you got to have a business mindset. Okay, no, that's dope, man. One of my first roommates in the military, he was from Natchez, Mississippi. He loved Ed McNair, Steve McNair, because Steve McNair went to Alcorn State. He loves Steve McNair. But hey, it's 2025. I guess the parting words that I want to give you all is don't put off what it is that you want to do. Go ahead and do it. Go ahead and make plans to do it now and go ahead and dip your toe in and just dive in and do it. I was just having a conversation with somebody. I remember doing live streams for an hour and no one would ever watch. Now some live streams I could do, it'll be 10 people, 20 people, 400 people, 100 people, 80 people, 40 people. So and I did wanted to circle back and look at the first video, but I'm not gonna have time. I went back and looked at my first video. That shit was awful. Like, shout out to the people who were subscribed watching those early videos that I did because they were awful. But I say that to say everything is a journey. We don't find perfection because perfection is a progress and it's something that we're always chasing. So if your goals are health related to your finances, related to your family, related to your relationships, it's all a process. All you can do is work at it. All you can do is put the time in. And it's possible things can take a dramatic change in one night because you can hit a home run out the park. But the more realistic approach is a balanced approach where you make a little bit of progress over a long period of time. And then when you turn and look back, you can say, damn, you know what? We did that. We've worked our way from where we were at point A, and now we're at point Z, and we can see a substantial difference. You don't see the difference in day 1 and day 5, but you see the difference in day 1 and day 120 and day 349. So just think about it in the long run. Hey, happy New Year's to you all. I'm appreciative of everybody who tuned into this video, anybody who's going to watch it on the replay side of the game. And this month, I don't know if y'all peeped it. Well, I tried to put out some form of content every day this month. It's like a little December thing that I do. So I appreciate everybody for rocking with me. I appreciate y'all. I'm grateful. Y'all have a blessed, happy New Year's. Be safe, celebrate, enjoy. I don't know if y'all know this tradition, but make sure y'all make some collard greens and black-eyed peas. I got to explain this tradition to everybody. Collard greens and black-eyed peas on New Year's Day is for a financial blessing. The greens is the bills, and the beans is the change. I don't know if it worked. I know a lot of people who did it, and I don't know if they had a financial blessing in that, but that's one tradition that I always do in my household. That's it. Y'all have a good one. Y'all be safe. Peace. What y'all over there doing? These damn kids. What y'all